So this is, of course, the fourth Power Lunch of the year. We began the year in January with a panel of experts who provided an economic and business outlook. Then in February, we turned our attention to education, and we had Dr. Chavez as well as a speaker from the Austin Chamber of Commerce. Then in March, with the arrival of spring and the arrival of baseball season, we had a little bit of a lighter-hearted topic and had a great program on baseball with a senior speaker from the Baseball Hall of Fame. And now today, of course, our attention turns to a report from our city manager. And I think Steve and I are both trying to figure out when we are no longer called new, because we both started at about the same time, and at some point we become entrenched, perhaps, as opposed to new. But the topic for today's luncheon came about when our Business Advocacy Council, which is chaired by Laura Weber, was saying, you know, Steve has been here for about a year, a little over a year now. Let's invite him to come on in and share with the business community his plans and the things that have already been implemented. And on top of that, they came up with a great suggestion to ask the mayor, who's been working with Steve on a daily basis, and a weekly basis, to do the introduction. So at this point, I'd like to invite Mayor McGraw to come on up and introduce Steve.
All right, Doug and Steve, with any consolation, I've been doing this for 4 years and they still call me the new mayor. So it just goes with the territory, I guess. Last week when I did my State of the City address, I said, if you weren't there, I said I thought the State of the City was energized. And I gave a lot of the credit to that to our new city manager. Look at that. Our city manager has been here just over a year, Steve Norwood, and I mean that the leadership team that he's brought in, combined with the leadership team that's here, I think just it's been contagious, and it really has created this energy in the city. Quick background on Steve. He got his BS in criminal justice from Sam Houston State University over with the Bearcats in Huntsville. Got a master's in urban planning from UTA, and then he launched off in his father's footsteps in a city manager career as an assistant in Euless. Then he went as a city manager in Wiley, Lancaster, assistant city manager in North Richland Hills. Then he moved up to Prescott for 7 or 8 years. And that's where we got a chance to meet him, and brought him down here just a little over a year ago. And we have been thrilled to have Steve here. Just to kind of give you a little insight to how politically savvy he is, though, when he was a city manager in one of those towns up in the suburbs, I forget which one, he didn't like the way the newspaper was reporting. And so he went out and he went out and married the reporter. So been married to her ever since, and I guess that's the way he kind of got the negative press stopped in the city. So anyway, city manager, new year, whatever you want to call him, Steve Norwood.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, when Doug asked me about this a few months ago, he said, just do kind of a state of the city and, kind of what's going on. And so I said, that's fine. I didn't think about it for a while. So Thursday at the State of the City address, and I know there's several people that were there, I'm sitting there looking at kind of my notes, and he had to talk about Emerson. I scratched that off my speech. He'd talk about the sports complex, and I'd scratch that off mine. And he'd talk about downtown, and I'd scratch that off. And I mean, I was even going to talk about the secret to Soylent Green. And so that's been scratched off the list. So we're just going to press a button, and we're going to watch the mayor's State of the City address. So I thought, well, maybe it won't be in the paper. Well, it's in the Round Rock Leader. I said, well, we probably won't have it on our website for a while. Well, it is on the website. The full text of the speech and the video. So this morning, I started working on my speech. Notice none of my staff laughed on that because they know me. So I'm going to give you the real story of the State of the City. The mayor gave you his version because he had a lot of press there, so I'm going to give you the real version. Goals retreats for several days, I wouldn't equate to 2 hours on the back deck at Juniors. So, just kidding. So, but first of all, as the mayor mentioned, some of the staff, I've hired a lot of staff, and today's 15 months to the day. And, you know, it's a little more than what I thought it was going to be, because you bring in, you got a lot of good existing staff, and you bring in folks from outside or people you know, and you got to always worry about the mesh and how we all get along and gel together. You know, I hired two department heads, one from San Antonio, David Coatney, who is our fire chief, and Valerie Francois from the city of Austin. Also brought 3 people from Prescott, Arizona with me that I knew very well and could trust, and they're doing a great job. I also promoted 4 from within the organization to go with the 5. I just so happened to work 2, 3, 4, 5 to go with 5 that were already here. And I think that the blending and the gelling is doing quite well. So I am tickled to death because, you know, I'm not the brightest bulb in the drawer, but I can sure tell you I can surround myself with good people who do good work and who deeply care about their business. Let me just touch on a few projects, and then I'm going to get into something else. But the sports complex, you know, the Jim Shelgren and a lot of folks at the chamber really helped get this going. We went to the voters on a venue tax. We're now under design on this project, and in fact, May 10th, we'll have Marmon Mock, the architect, there to give us kind of an overview. So we are on schedule. We should have it designed end of summer, and then soon after be under construction with a planned October. Is that pretty fair, Chad?
Yes.
October. I'm going to hold you to that like I did Larry Matson on the City Hall remodel. So October 2013, we should be operational. Chisholm Trail, and I know Felix Munson has got to be one of the happiest men in the room that this is actually occurring. We've got this project out for bid, and that's from Sam Bass to 3406. That's both sections, and it's a straight line. That should be here this spring, probably with the early summer opening, and about an 18-month project. Again, that's going to be a lot of drama and stress and all that, but once it's done, it's going to be fantastic. And that project has been on the board for some time, and we're moving forward on that one. City Hall remodel, we should have that essentially complete, ready to go May 7th. So here in the next week or so, we'll start moving, and we'll have that whole complex along with the plaza pretty much done. Water rates, the lakes. You know, we're still selling a lot of water, but it's nice with Mother Nature cooperating. Our lakes are full again. There is a new tiered water rate structure. So if you use over 30,000 gallons, just don't panic when you see your water bill. Blackboard Connect is a new communication device that Will Hampton found, and you'll see it in the papers, and I think the leader today. It's a fantastic opportunity to get notifications, whether it's through your softball league or whether it's through emergencies that are happening in your area. It could be as minor as water being turned off on a portion of your street. So go to the city website, and there is a link on there to go to Blackboard Connect, and you can put 4 or 5 numbers. You can put your home number, you can put your kid's cell phone numbers, you can hold up 4 to 6 numbers, and it can text you with information, it can call you. It's incredible, and it makes about 20,000 phone calls in less than 20 minutes. So it's a great system, and it's not a computer-generated voice. So again, take a look at that, and that's just another tool in the toolbox to keep our citizens engaged. And probably the biggest thing that I think we do, and we do it pretty good, but I think there's definitely room for improvements, and that's partnerships. You know, we've got a great partnership with the Chamber of Commerce as it relates to economic development. We are on the same page. We talk quite a bit. In fact, we were meeting yesterday. There's a lot of things going on, and it's nice to have that mutual trust there. It's also a major project like the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority that Councilman White's president on. This is a huge project that will come online first phase in July. And that's working with Cedar Park and Leander. But it's also little things like the Mays Street underpass with the YMCA. If you've been out there on a Saturday, you see kids and police officers trying to get kids back and forth across Mays. We were able to do a project going underneath the creek there. So it doesn't have to be huge, but I think my favorite is the Play for All Abilities Park. What an absolute incredible gym for our community. And it's not just the Rabs, and it's not just the Union Pacific, it's the Rotary Clubs, it's the Kiwanis, it's you name it, personal checks. I mean, there were so many civic groups and organizations that came forward to really build what I think is probably no more than a handful of these in the state of Texas. And the usage of that has far exceeded anything we could have imagined. So again, those are the partnerships that I think do all of us very well in our day-to-day lives. And if it changes somebody's day for the better, it's like Gary Hutter, our transportation director, kind of jokes about, if I could make somebody's life better by putting in a right turn lane at Red Bud and Gaddis School, then I've done my job. And those are the little things that do make a difference, but sometimes maybe they don't have the same glamour as a huge interchange. One thing I'm going to shift gears here is, and it's getting more and more prevalent in this country, and that's millennials. And we are, challenged at the city of Round Rock. We've got about 30% of our workforce are termed the millennials, and that's those born from about 1980 through about 2000. And that is 30% of the workforce out there today. And that mirrors exactly what we are in the city of Round Rock. And just to kind of put it in perspective, I asked our HR department, give me the average age of who's on our health insurance plan. Average age is 29. Now what that tells me, we've got a lot of young employees. Well, we also have a lot of young employees having a lot of young kids. So that's something that we as an organization, and I get kind of affectionately referred to as a dinosaur. And if you saw my cell phone, you'd know exactly why. April 30th, I get the iPhone. And as Brooks Bennett said, welcome somewhat to the future. So I'm going to read just some data on this new mindset. And Doug Kirkland and I have had some conversations about this and the pressures and the challenges that it's facing a new work group. And again, 3/4 of this group have created a profile on social networking sites. 1 in 5 have posted a video of themselves online. Nearly 4 in 10 have a tattoo, and for most who do, 1 is not enough. About 50% of those have tattoos, 2 to 5 tattoos. Millennials place parenthood and marriage far above career and financial success, but they aren't rushing to the altar. Just 1 in 5 millennials are married now, half the share of the parents' generation at the same stage in life. And they were asked, what makes your generation unique? And the silent, which is being born prior to 1946. World War II, the Depression, smarter, honest, work ethic, values. The baby boomers, 1946 to 1964, what they felt made them unique. Work ethic, respectful, values, and smarter. Gen X, 1965 to 1980, what they felt made them unique. Technology use, work ethic, conservative, smarter, respectful. Millennials, technology use, music and pop culture, liberal, smarter, and closed. So, and this is for the first time in the history of America, you have 4 generations all in the workforce. Now, if you don't think some of these challenges and dynamics can wreak havoc on an organization, Those of you that have these situations, you see it every day. We see it every day. The thing that I was really tasked with when I got here was, I used to be, and I guess this is just getting older, I used to be one of the younger ones. Now I'm one of the older people on the staff. And they're making me feel uncomfortable in a lot of ways. Well, what do you mean I need to be at work at 8 o'clock? I didn't wake up, didn't go to bed till 3 a.m. I got the work done, and so it's forcing some of the dinosaurs out there to get a little bit uncomfortable. And I tell you, we've, with the help of Brooks and others, we've created a workplace evolution team where we're going to get where we've got them, half dinosaurs and half millennials. And we're putting them together to see what we can do to make the city of Round Rock a fun place to work, that we can all coexist, because there is a lot of mentoring opportunities for those baby boomers, silent folks out there to help nurture some of these young folks. A lot of these young folks can help nurture us at that older group through technology or other means. So, and we're going to be in the workforce together for many years, so we're going to have to learn to, I guess, coexist and work together, because this is not some new Peter Drucker book or Tom Peters. This is real life. This is happening today, and I'm telling you, the talent pool out there is getting smaller and smaller. And I tell people every day, I'm not competing with the city of Georgetown or the city of Austin or anybody else for employees. I'm competing against Emerson. I'm competing against Apple, Samsung, Dell, FedEx, you name it. And those companies have planners. Those companies have accountants. So it is a real challenge for us to make that environment fun, because I haven't heard one person yet in my life to say, I want to grow up and be a city manager. Not yet. I've heard them say police and fire, but not being a city manager. And I think we need to do a really good job targeting those good people. And when I used to look at resumes, if I saw everybody job hopping every 2 to 3 years, that got moved aside in the other pile. Today, that's very common. And if they get there, these young folks, and they're not energized, and they're not engaged, and they're not part of a team, because they want to go work in other areas that they may know nothing about, just because it's that teamwork, then that person's going to get bored real quickly, and they're going to leave. And just to kind of give you a real-life example, I didn't see Jeff Andreessen here, so I want to make sure everybody understands. I didn't get in trouble with this YMCA, okay? Back in Arizona, and this points out the whole baby boomer, I'm kind of right on that cusp there, and the millennials. I was coaching my son's basketball team. Thank God I'm the city manager, because my coaching skills aren't that good, because we finished the year 2-8. So we get through, we have the little deal where we're talking, we went to breakfast, and the staff person from the Y says, Mr. Norwood, you need to give each kid a trophy. I said, I'm not going to give a kid a trophy. Well, but everybody played, and everybody played the game. And I said, that's true, that's why they got a shirt. And I said, when you're 2-8, you have no business getting a trophy. And they said, well, they paid for it. I said, well, then pay them back. No, you got to get, I said, I'm not giving a kid a trophy for going 2-8. So I didn't, and they said, you probably shouldn't coach next year, Mr. Norwood. You don't want to follow the rules. Well, that's the group today. Everybody gets a trophy. And I'm having to, I probably would have handled that differently today. But, to me, it's about winning and losing. And you're not going to win every time. You're not going to get first place or second place. Sometimes you have a 2-8 season, and maybe sometimes you need to take a look at why you were 2-8. But this group is changing. And I went and spoke to the LBJ school here about a month ago on this very topic, and probably won't do that again, because I got about 15 emails and resumes within about 6 hours. I want to come to Round Rock, and which, maybe that's good. But again, we're seeing it throughout. It hasn't been that long ago where we had police officers standing in line to do overtime assignments. And I mean in line. Today, we have to beg and plead for them to do that overtime. They're wanting to go spend time with family. You know, money's not the main thing. It's about family, it's about time away. I get people, or employees all the time, that say, Steve, you know that 3 or 4% raise that, you know, I'm eligible for, can you just keep it and give me days off that are equal to that? And of course, being a good bureaucrat that I am, I say, no, we can't do that. That's not our policy. And of course, they don't stop at that. You know, it's, well, how come it's the policy? I'm not costing you any more money. Well, if I do it for you, I have to do it for everybody. Good. You know? So it is a real challenge, and part of this workplace evolution team is looking at those situations. You know, it's like everybody today has an iPhone. Well, maybe that's part of their package when they come to work for the city. I mean, this city has different health insurance than Georgetown. You know, this city has different benefits than Austin. So we're really trying to get out of this same mode of one size fits all. Because when you have 800 employees, there's going to be issues all the time. And the vast majority of folks we're hiring are in that millennial group. And I want to keep them here and keep them entertained. You know, we can't be Facebook. Facebook, you have a baby, they send you a $5,000 check. Their sick policy is, we don't have one. If you're sick, stay home. There's so many of those things that the private sector are doing that we have some limitations because of public dollars. But I tell you, if we don't respond to this trend, we're going to be behind. And it's the same thing on technology. There is an expectation that Round Rock, Texas is a worldwide leader in technology. And we're not. And we're not going to get there by the end of this year, but we're going to move as fast as we can to get there. And it's got to make sense. But we're hiring people that are coming in to work in various roles that have a lot of experience with technology. And they demand that from our IT department. So Brooks Bennett, you have quite a challenge, but this challenge is not going away. And we are looking at doing some teams. The fire department's looking at station locations and training facilities. Why couldn't somebody from the library be on that? I mean, maybe it doesn't fit into their bailiwick, but they're probably a pretty intelligent person. They probably can plan. And maybe that gets them a little buy-in when their job maybe at times gets a little bit stale. So we're looking at anything and everything. Some of these, I've already said, are going to make, you know, a lot of folks feel uncomfortable. I mean, I'll get folks come to me and say, Steve, we've got you the greatest computer. This thing could land the space shuttle. Because you're the boss and you need the best that we got. So don't waste your time. I just need something to get on the internet and send an email. That's all I need. I said, send it to that landscape architect in the Parks Department who's designing some really neat features that instead of us contracting out a design, maybe they have a $15,000, $20,000 software package that $25 an hour employee can use. So again, it's across the board. It's looking at anything and everything. And staff knows, you know, I get real uncomfortable, but I'm also smart enough to recognize that this is happening, and it's happening pretty quick. And, you know, as I said, I've got 6 more days when I get my iPhone, and I'm really wanting to hurry that up because my daughter's friend was over the other day, and I pulled out and my phone flips, okay? You know, you guys lay it on your desk, you know, I'll put it in a clip. And she goes, what's that? Yeah, okay. You know, but this stuff is moving so quickly, and we as an organization need to be nimble. And in the same fashion, we need to be nimble when it's providing services to you. And people, it's instant gratification now. Just a couple of years ago, people would get up, go in the computer room, Google. Now they just sit there in front of the TV with their iPhone and get all the information they need. So there's greater expectations coming from our citizens, and rightfully so. And if we're not there to respond to that, then we haven't done our job. So with that, I will close and answer any questions you have. And we're done. So any questions? You know, and it's always a little intimidating sitting up here with George White on the front row staring at you.
Yes. Sandy?
I just wondered what kind of recruiting efforts maybe the city's doing, you know, are we doing, you know, any college outreach, you know, programs to the different universities here, or doing any internships? Does the city have any internships that are available within the city structure?
You know, right now, we have a handful of internships that are available, but going into this next year, we're going to be looking at increasing that amount. One of the things that we've learned is to make your job descriptions a lot more exciting, not the standard government boilerplate, you know, the specifics. If you make it a little bit more lively and energetic and put it on the right spots, I mean, 99% of our resumes or job applications are online. That's where we get the majority of them. But if it's worded, the key is how you word it.
College to careers is having a big internship fair. I know, like, I think next week, actually, or no, maybe it is this Sunday. And they expect like 600 students, you know, to show up. And I know that some of the biggest one they were talking about was technology and social media, and then the other one was just executive assistants, you know, where they come in and learn, you know, what your business is all about. So I was just wondering if maybe there would be an opportunity for even Round Rock to host something like that, if there would be a company that would be willing to come in and do it, because we have so many universities in our
Sure.
area now.
No, and that's a good point that, you know, we may have to look at going to some of those job fairs. I mean, if you know, if I'm going to be critical that we do a poor job marketing our business, well, then we need to be out there marketing our business. So, you know, police and fire, that's pretty easy because people identify with that, and those are very well-established careers. But, you know, we're adding the social media aspect is becoming larger. We have a lot of planners, we have a lot of engineers. I mean, there's some CPAs. I mean, there's some really great professions in our business, but a lot of people don't think of that.
Steve, a lot of businesses also like to keep tabs on how they can do business or compete for business with the city. Wonder if you could say just a couple of words about that and whether there's any changes either that have been made or in progress.
We are putting a much greater emphasis on our locals. Doesn't mean that we don't use businesses from Austin, Pflugerville, Georgetown, what have you. But an overwhelming majority, we're going with local. And local means you're in the corporate city limits of Round Rock. And that's how we've defined it. We have seen a lot on the engineering side. And some of these aren't huge contracts, but you know, we're doing a lot of work, whether it's with Hickman, we've got work going with Huggins Seiler. There's just a lot of work from the transportation side primarily, but it's a renewed emphasis, I can assure you. Are we going to make mistakes along the way? Absolutely. Are we going to miss some? You bet. But, you know, nobody's going to fault us for not trying. And I really do think if we ran the numbers, and that may be something worth doing, is the number of local contracts that have been signed here in the last year compared to previous, I think would be pretty staggering. And I think it's a lot easier dealing with the locals on some, because there's a lot of these projects in pretty tough areas that have a lot of local knowledge of what was there 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you know, previous weather patterns and drainage and flooding. So again, we're going to continue to make that a top priority.
Other than the human resources issue you addressed, what do you see as the top challenges for the city over the next 5 years?
Well, it's going to be our economy and getting our growth back. You know, I've talked to numerous employee groups, police and fire, they're pretty extensive labor groups. And, there's equipment, there's health insurance going up, there's workers' comp, there's all these increases there. And our sales tax for the last 3 to 4 years has remained flat. A little over 50% of our revenue comes from that one source. Then you get another 25–30% from property tax, and that's staying pretty flat. So when you've got the overwhelming majority of your revenue flat, but you still have these competing interests over there to keep us one of the top 10 safest cities in the country, that's a challenge. And, the fire department business continues to evolve, but, and our library is off the chart. 40,000 people a month go through that library. And it gets even worse during the summer with the summer reading program with over 6,000 kids. Parks and recreation, when the economy suffers, that becomes your hometown retreat, and people play, in the parks more often. So it does create a demand. So I think it's going to be getting that back on, and as we start seeing, not the last bit of our land, because we've got a lot of land to the north and northeast that doesn't have the utilities, but we do have a lot of other infill projects. What do we want that to look like? Because, this, we're not making any more dirt, so we need to make sure that we're very careful on how we finish our build out. Yes?
You are making more water though, and I just wanted to see if you could speak to the partnership that we came together on here last month on the water reclamation fund.
Yep. And again, another partnership here. We've started a pretty major reuse water project. So instead of just dumping water in Brushy Creek, we treat it to a little higher standard, not to drinking water standards, but we're putting in what's called purple pipe, and we're sending that up to the north. First stop is Del Diamond. So Del Diamond will not be watering with potable water, it will be reuse water. Then we go on up to Old Settlers Park. During the peak, Old Settlers is using probably, maybe off a little bit, but around 1 million gallons of water a day, and that's drinking water. So you start thinking about curbing some of our future water needs. This is a great way to do it. And once we finish with Old Settlers Park, then we go up further north to the Avery Center. And at some point, we need to get this pipe around so that new developments can tie onto it. But that's going to be a huge part in conserving water and changing people's behavior. But the Round Rock Express stepped right up and been great partners on this project, and really appreciate what you're doing and the ease of how it's getting done.
Well, it diverts, just for public information, 8.5 million gallons of potable water that we had to use last year to water the grass. For the nice emerald green grass we got at the ballpark. It doesn't come without expense. And this certainly helps the city cause, and personally on the business side, gives us a break on the water table as far as the tiered pricing. So it's a win-win, and I encourage anybody who has the opportunity to get exposed to it to do so.
We're trying to get to a neighborhood near you just as soon as we can. Because people will ask for, well, I want it. And I said, well, it just doesn't appear. We've got to have a pipe going out in your area. So and it's not cheap. So, but we'll get it there. We'll get it there.